Chapter 368. Just when the few of them had killed their way through and were forced back, the beasts behind them had finally caught up to dozens of miles away. The cries of the babies were heard throughout the whole space, which made Grand Elder Chan and Lu Mei feel a little scared. On the other hand, Yi Chan was expressionless, his eyes cold and serious. The more dangerous the situation was, the calmer one needed to be. All of the negative emotions had to be cut down, not letting them waver. Sword artists were both extreme in terms of attacking power and willpower. Wanting to shatter a sword artist's willpower, it would be impossible to only threaten them with death. What should we do? Lu Mei asked anxiously. Yi Chan scanned the surroundings. If we run in other directions, we might run into more beasts. It is even more impossible to go up, since there is no sky here. Therefore, the only way left is underground. Underground? Indeed. The beasts have huge bodies, so their speed would be very slow. As long as we run deep enough, we will be safe. The underground was not like the sky. First of all, the spirit power would be mostly cancelled out by the endless rocks. Secondly, traveling underground would consume a lot of energy, and it would obviously not last long. Therefore, as long as the three ran underground, the chance of survival was still very high. Without any hesitation, the three dove down, shooting towards the underground. Shoo! 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 Of course, the beasts would not let Yi Chan and the other two leave. Burning white light beams shot out one after another, interweaving into a death net. Wherever they reached, a huge pit would appear on the ground, which was hundreds of meters deep. It brushed past the protective Zhenyuan layer, twisting it rapidly. Boom! Being hit by 4 light beams at the same time, Yi Chan started bleeding from all over his body. His body was blown away, while Lu Mei and Grand Elder Chan were almost killed. Go down now. Less than a few hundred meters from the ground, Yi Chen's body exploded, and countless shadows spread out like a flood. Under the cover of the shadows, the three flashed once and disappeared into the ground. Rumble! The second wave of attacks arrived, and the ground was full of holes. It was as if a thick layer of the ground had been lifted off. The powerful vibrations reached deep into the ground, causing the three to be slightly wounded again. Follow me. The piercing power of the Green Lotus Zhenyuan was far greater than any other Zhenyuan. It was like an incomparably sharp sword, piercing through the mud in front of it, creating an unobstructed path. On the other hand, Grand Elder Chan and Lu Mei were much slower than Yi Chan. The two clearly saw the advantage of the Green Lotus Zhenyuan. Their eyes brightened as they followed closely behind him. Several hundred meters. Several thousand meters. 10,000 meters. Although the speed at which the three of them traveled underground could not even reach the speed of sound, they were already more than 10,000 meters underground in just a few dozen breaths. Buzz! Wave after wave of tremors, the fog beasts charged into the ground, including the 500 beasts that had been chasing after Yi Chan. The tremors were very scattered. It was obvious that the dense fog beasts did not gather together to chase after him. Instead, they were in groups of 3 to 5, and hundreds of them were chasing after him. The situation was not optimistic. The mud is too dense. We cannot go down any further. When they had traveled 12,000 meters deep, Yi Chen's Zhenyuan would be used up dozens of times more than usual for every dozens of meters. If they continued to go down, they would not know how much more pressure they would have to face. In the water, astral-reaching realm warriors could only dive tens of thousands of meters deep, and extreme astral-reaching realm warriors could only go 100,000 meters deep at most. The pressure underground was more than 10 times higher than the pressure in the water. Right now it was already their limit. Let's find a safe place to rest first, Lu Mei suggested. Yi Chen nodded. It was the only way. Instead of going down in a straight line, the three moved horizontally. As for the traces they had left behind, they had already been filled up by the heavy pressure, leaving no trace behind. All of a sudden a wave of mental power scanned through the three of them. Not good. We have been discovered. Yi Chen frowned. Beasts were just like human warriors. Once they reached a certain level, they would be able to use mental power scanning techniques. However, compared to humans, the beast techniques were much weaker, which made it easier for them to be discovered. Boom! The rocks underground had been shattered as 5 beasts rushed over, letting out a series of sharp roars that spread out in all directions. Kill! The beasts in front of them were not that scary. What was scary was being surrounded by other beasts. Yi-chan pushed his Zhen Yuan and waved out a sword attack with difficulty. Kalala! A sword-shaped crack appeared on the ground, landing on the leading beast. However, that sword attack only managed to wound it badly. Under the ground, the attacking power had been weakened too much. The further the distance, the weaker the power. These 5 beasts were hundreds of meters away from the 3, but their attacking power had been reduced by 30%. It was impossible to kill them with one attack. Watch me. Grand Elder Chan held his silver light rapier as he spun his body. A cone-shaped light shot out, piercing through the leading beast's body. Bind! Compared to Yi-chan and Grand Elder Chan, since Lu Mei was using a whip art, her attacking power was almost negligible. However, she was very supportive. She shook her long whip, which was like a poisonous snake, moving around quickly and binding one of the beasts. Seizing the chance, Yi-chan performed his green lotus accumulation, which had the strongest penetrating power. A fist-sized green lotus pierced through the beast's forehead. Out of the 5 beasts, 2 had been killed within a second. The vibrating sound was heard, and the other beasts had received the message. Die! At this critical moment, Yi-chan did not have any intention of saving his power. He threw out a sword attack and the sword light exploded. The surrounding soil was cut into pieces, and the blue sword light opened up a path, devouring the remaining 3 beasts. Blood splashed everywhere as the 3 beasts were all killed. So powerful! What kind of sword art is this? Grand Elder Chan could tell how powerful this attack was. The sword light's power went from strong to weak, and from weak to strong. The hundreds of meters distance seemed to have been ignored. Run! Under the ground, Yi-chen's spirit power could cover about 3 to 4 miles, so the beast should not be as powerful as him. Besides, Yi-chen's soul power could cover 20 to 30 miles, which was his advantage, and would not be easily discovered. If they did not run now, it would be troublesome if they were surrounded. After traveling for a couple of miles, the second danger arrived. An extremely powerful spirit power scanned through the 3, and right after that, a burning white light column with a hint of purple appeared. The 3 of them puked out blood as their protective Zhen Yuan was completely shattered. It's the leader of the beasts. Grand Elder Chan had a dark look in his eyes. Yi-chan said, "No rush. It is still 2 miles away from us, and the light column's power is not that powerful. We just need to run and it should not be able to catch up." Just like Yi-chan had expected, the beast's body was too huge, and its speed had decreased even more. Judging solely on speed, it was at least 2 times slower than any of the 3. After a couple of hours, there were no more spirit power scanning this place. Finally, we are safe. Lu Mei let out a breath, feeling that her body was completely empty. Her Zhen Yuan replenishment speed could not keep up with the consumption speed. If it dragged on for a while longer, no one knew what would happen. Yi-chan said, "Let's each open up a small space to recover our Zhen Yuan." All right. The 2 nodded. It was not that easy to open up a space 10,000 meters under the ground. The bigger the space, the faster it would collapse, since the pressure from above would be unbelievably powerful. Eventually, Yi-chan managed to open up a space that could fit his body. It was less than 1 meter in width, which was perfect for sitting in. I have to break through to the late astral reaching realm as soon as possible. With that, my battling power would basically be equivalent to an astral reaching realm unbeatable warrior, and I would not have to be so embarrassed anymore. Right now, Yi-chen's cultivation was at the peak level of mid-astral reaching realm, and his battling power would be one of the top extreme astral reaching realm warriors. Any kind of breakthrough would be extremely rare. But in comparison, the cultivation breakthrough would be even easier, while the sword intent and mentality breakthrough would be too hard. Yi-chan did not know when he would be able to reach the 14th realm of his Green Lotus sword spell. Once he did, his battling power would be extremely powerful. Holding a mid-rank soul stone in each of his hands, Yi-chan went into training mode. Time passed bit by bit, and the beasts were still searching everywhere. Occasionally, there would be 1 or 2 groups of beasts that were a couple of miles away. However, the underground was too big and the limitations were also huge. A slight mistake could lead to a huge error, which gave Yi-chan and the other 2 some time to rest. Not knowing how many days had passed, a wave of vibration spread out. "It is Grand Elder Yi." He has made a breakthrough. Grand Elder Chun and Lu Mei were both shocked. Yi Chun was already very powerful, and now that he had made another breakthrough, he would be even more powerful now. Perhaps it was the intense pressure that had stimulated Yi Chun's hidden potential. Right then, Yi Chun had indeed made a breakthrough. His cultivation had reached the late astral reaching realm, and the quality and quantity of his Zhen Yuan had increased by 30%. In other words, judging only on the basic power, there were not many astral reaching realm warriors that could compete with him. The vibration created by the breakthrough had a wide range. A group of beasts nearby had sensed the disturbance and rushed over while roaring. Yi Chun opened his eyes. Perfect timing. Underground, the advantage of the beasts' numbers had been greatly limited. If it were on the ground, all Yi Chun could do was run away. He would not dare to fight head-on at all. Boom! The hole had been shattered and Yi Chun stood up. He took out his greenwood sword with his right hand and threw out a sword attack. Swoosh! The soil had been shattered into sand all of a sudden. The sword light increased drastically, looking like a crescent moon as it sliced through the beasts' bodies. Blood spilled everywhere as 4 beasts were sliced into pieces. Killing 4 beasts with one sword attack. This is the power of an astral-reaching realm warrior. Lu Mei opened her mouth wide, shocked beyond words. Grand Elder Chun was also shocked. It should be known that Yi Chun did not have a top-rank weapon on him, but he had the power of an astral-reaching realm warrior. He was very clear about what it meant. Wah! Out of the 5 fog beasts, 4 were dead, and the last one was slightly injured. This fog beast was not an ordinary one. It was the leader of the fog beasts. It roared angrily as it opened its mouth and shot out a purple-white light column. Chin! Sparks flew everywhere, melting the soil nearby. Yi Chun backed out with his sword, easily blocking out the full power attack of the beast. Die! Stopping his backing out, Yi Chun held his sword with both of his hands and waved out another sword attack. This sword attack pierced through hundreds of meters deep into the ground. A beam of sword light shot out, cutting off half of the beast's body. Chapter 369. Before the beast leader died, its body was shrouded in smoke, which then exploded. Pieces of flesh pierced through the ground, shooting out dozens of miles away. Soon, those pieces of flesh continued to spit out a thick white fog. As the fog was spat out, the size of the pieces of flesh became smaller and smaller, until they disappeared completely. This fog is not simple. It can even slowly seep into the rocks. Yi Chun pushed his soul power, and immediately realized the strangeness of the fog. Rumble! Just as Yi Chun finished his sentence, all of the beasts underground moved out together, rushing towards Yi Chun crazily. That kind of sound was like the earth was shaking. Grand Elder Chun and Lu Mei were shocked. How could it be? Although the battle between Yi Chun and the beast leader was quite loud, it would only attract the nearby beasts. How could it be possible for all of them to move out together, as if they knew where they were? Could it be because of this fog? Lu Mei was shocked. No time to waste. Let's leave this place first. The green lotus Zhen Yuan cut through the mud and rocks, and Yi Chun led the two to break through towards the south. There were relatively fewer beasts in the south, but there were still more than 50 of them. These beasts were in groups of 5, keeping a few hundred meters distance from each other. Kill! After reaching the late astral reaching realm, Yi Chun's battling power had increased drastically. Every casual sword attack of his had an unstoppable power. Besides the beast leader, basically no one else could take one attack from him. Lu Mei was helping him on the side, performing her wind whip art. The whip shadow was like a snake, binding up the beasts one after another, making it impossible for them to gather together. Although Grand Elder Chun was not as powerful as Yi Chun in terms of attacking power, it was still quite effective for him to take care of some of the beasts that managed to escape. Just like that, the 3 of them had a clear division of labor fighting their way out. Should we go up there? After escaping from the beast's encirclement, Grand Elder Chun sent a Zhen Yuan message to Yi Chun. Yi Chun shook his head. No need to rush. Right now it seems like no one will notice us. But the situation up there might not be that good. Let's kill a certain amount of beasts first before going up. Hunt foggy beasts? Lu Mei was surprised. Underground, the range of the mental power is limited. It will be hard for the dense fog beasts to surround us. and we can change our location after every shot. Hearing this, Lu Mei and Grand Elder Chun were suddenly enlightened. They looked at each other and smiled bitterly. They were still thinking about how to escape, but Yi Chun had already figured out the fundamental solution. It seemed that different levels of power determine different ways of looking at problems. In order to hunt fog beasts, one must have a certain amount of capital. Yi Chun's capital was his soul power. The range of his soul power was around 10 times that of the fog beasts. This was his weapon that allowed him to take the initiative. There are actually 3 groups of beasts gathered together in this area. A smile flashed on Yi Chun's face. He waved his greenwood sword in the air, and a huge green lotus bloomed. Chi 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 chi. The next moment, dense green sword chi burst out from Yi Chun's body, like a hedgehog spitting out its spikes, giving the enemy in front of it a fatal attack. Without any ability to fight back, the 3 groups of dense fog beasts were drowned in the torrent of sword chi, riddled with holes. Let's go. After killing the enemy with one attack, Yi Chun changed his location immediately. Using the same method within 3 days, Yi Chun had killed more than 400 beasts, including 3 of their leaders. Now we can go up. Putting his greenwood sword back into its scabbard, Yi Chun lightly stepped on the ground and his body shot up. Crack! The ground cracked open, and the 3 appeared in midair. Grand Elder Yi, how about we go check out the stone forest? We do not know how to get out yet anyway. Grand Elder Chun suggested. Yi Chun nodded. There might be a huge amount of beasts in the stone forest, but compared to before, Yi Chun's battling power had improved a lot. He could be considered as invincible among the astral reaching realm. He could fight 1-on-1 or even 10 at the same time and he would not be afraid. Even if it did not work out, he would be able to escape from the underground. Therefore, it would not be a big deal for him to explore the stone forest. Shoo! 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 The 3 performed their flying art, flying towards the stone forest. As for how big the stone forest was, Yi Chun did not know. Every rock inside was like a mountain, shining with a gray light. The 3 entered the stone forest area quietly. Do not release your mental power, Yi Chun said with a Zhen Yuan transmission. Lu Mei nodded, indeed. Scanning with mental power will attract the attention of the beasts. The 3 of them did not discover any traces of the dense fog beasts, and they could not help but relax. They were not afraid of 1 or 2 beasts, but they were afraid of hundreds of beasts. Not to mention astral reaching realm paragons, even 3 or 4 astral reaching realm paragons would not be able to handle hundreds of attacks. They would be turned into ashes within a second. After about 1 hour, the 3 arrived at the deep end of the stone forest. It is a spirit plant. Grand Elder Chin's eyes focused. In a corner that was not easy to notice, he found a spirit plant with waxy white leaves and blue flowers. This spirit plant was about the size of a palm. The tiny tubes on its stem were clearly visible, just like the meridians of a human body. Tendon refining flower. There is a tendon refining flower here. In the auction, one of them could be sold for at least 5,000 mid-rank soul stones. If it could be made into a tendon refining pellet with other precious materials, even 30,000 mid-rank soul stones would not be too much. It would be priceless. Lu Mei screamed out loud. Yi Chun was shocked. He did not know much about the tendon refining flower, but he had heard about the tendon refining pellet. The meridians of the human body were very important, but also relatively fragile. If the meridians were blocked, the battling power would not be able to be used to its peak. If the meridians were broken, it would be a catastrophic injury for a warrior, which would be hard to heal. However, a tendon refining pellet could not only heal the broken meridians in a short period of time, but it could also strengthen the meridians, increasing their toughness to a horrifying level. Aha, I will not hold back then. Grand Elder Chun was the first one to find the tendon refining flower. He waved his hand, and the flower flew out of the ground, landing on his hand. Yi Chun said lightly, "There will be a lot of treasures in spirit plants. We need to make a rule. The rule is that whoever finds the treasure first will get to keep it. What do you guys think?" I have no problem with that. Lu Mei agreed. Grand Elder Chun obviously had no problem with that. Judging on power, Yi Chun was the strongest. This rule was obviously beneficial to him and Lu Mei. Otherwise, if Yi Chun decided to rob them, they would have to run away. Remembering the appearance of the Tinden refining flour, Yi Chun quietly released his soul power, spreading it out in all directions. Soul power was higher than soul power, so it was hard to detect. Underground, Yi Chun had used his soul power to take the initiative and kill a large number of beasts. Not long after, Yi Chun found 2 Tinden refining flours, so he flew towards them. Wow, Grand Elder Yi is so lucky. Grand Elder Chun only thought that Yi Chun had good eyesight, but he did not expect him to find them with his soul power. Regarding this, Yi Chun did not say anything. Tinden refining flour, 3 4-leaf plants, 7-star blue. There were a lot of spirit plants in the stone forest. In just half a day, the 3 of them had gotten 3 to 4 of them each. The lowest value among them was at least 1,000 mid-rank soul stones, while the most valuable one would be the 7-star blue, which was the main material for the Earth Astral Pellet. The Earth Astral Pellet could increase the total Jin Yuan of early astral-reaching realm warriors, and it was also useful for mid and late astral-reaching realm warriors. If there were enough of it, it would not take too long to reach the peak level from late astral-reaching realm. One 7-star blue could be used to make dozens of Earth Astral Pellets. Without soul power, Grand Elder Chun and Lu Mei did not even get 30% of what Yi Chun had gotten, and that was after Yi Chun had been holding back a little, leaving some leftovers for them. Yeah, what kind of spirit plant is this? There is a pure soul chi on it. Yi Chun's pupils shrank. The soul was the foundation of a human being. Physical wounds could be healed, but if the soul was wounded, it would be devastating. Therefore, the spirit plant with the soul chi would be the top spirit plant without a doubt. Shoo! His body turned into a wisp of black smoke, disappearing within a blink of an eye. Lu Mei was surprised. Did he find something? There were no traces of beasts in the stone forest. The 3 had already started to use their mental power to scan the area a couple of hours ago. Right then, seeing that Yi Chun had flown out without saying a word, they thought that he had found some kind of treasure. Let's go as well, Grand Elder Chun said. In the deep part of the stone forest, there was a 10 meters tall and 10 meters wide flat rock. On top of the rock, there were 2 1-foot tall crystal clear spirit plants growing. The stems of the spirit plants were twisted, and with a closer look, one could see that they were bent 9 times in total. There were 6 leaves on the top of the stem, which had a hint of black in it. Under the cover of the leaves, there was an object that looked like a fruit, but not a fruit or a flower. It was made up of rice grain-sized grains, surrounded by a light-colored chi. This is the 9-turn spirit plant. Oh my god! It really exists. If it were not for the fact that Yi Chun was standing right next to the plant, Grand Elder Chun would have rushed up and tried to take it for himself. 9-turn spirit plant? Can you explain? Yi Chun turned his head and looked at the 2. Grand Elder Chun said, the 9-turn spirit plant is extremely rare in the world. Eating it directly can increase one's lifespan by 9 years, and it can also strengthen the human body's soul. Not only increasing one's lifespan, but strengthening one's soul is something that even Sea of Souls realm warriors dream about. You have to know that the more powerful the soul is, the more powerful the willpower it can carry. In other words, if the soul is powerful enough, then the potential of the martial spirit will be powerful enough. Besides that, it is extremely hard to increase the power of the martial spirit. So, the relationship between the soul and the willpower is just like I had guessed. Yi Chun had already sensed that the relationship between the soul and the willpower was not normal. Right now, after hearing Grand Elder Chen's explanation, he had a clear feeling about it. Without any hesitation, Yi Chun directly moved the whole rock and the plant into his mid-rank storage ring. The mid-rank storage ring was 10 times bigger than the low-rank one, and could barely contain a 10-meter square rock. A look of admiration appeared on Grand Elder Chen's face. He was still far from the end of his lifespan, but no one would not want to see the plant, and he was no exception. Chapter 370. The stone forest seemed to be boundless, as if there was no end to it. The 3 had been searching inside for a couple of days, but besides some spirit plants, they had found nothing. In the middle of the 1,000-meter-tall rock, there were 3 caves that were dozens of meters apart. These caves were made by Yi Chun and the other 2. They were a couple of meters wide and dozens of meters deep. Inside the middle cave, Yi-chan sat on the ground with his legs crossed. In his hand was a sky demon flower petal. My body has already been strengthened to an extreme. Continuing to strengthen it would not have much effect. I can only use it to heal wounds in the future. Although Yi-chan did not train body-strengthening martial arts, after being trained by the Sky Demon Flower, his body was definitely one of the best among astral-reaching realm warriors. In a battle with the same cultivation, it would not be easy to hurt him anymore. Putting away the Sky Demon Flower petal, Yi-chan focused on the 9-twist spirit plant in his storage ring. After thinking for a while, he tore off a leaf from it. The leaf was finger-long, crystal clear with a hint of black, looking like a beautiful jade. Putting the leaf into his mouth, Yi-chan did not see anything strange, so he chewed it up and swallowed it. A wave of cool chi spread out, seeping into his limbs and the deepest part of his body. Then, a faintly discernible light-colored vibration rose up directly, rushing into his soul ocean between his eyebrows. Right then, Yi-chan could clearly feel that his soul power had increased a bit, and his mind was clear. Indeed, this 9-twist spirit plant has the effect of strengthening the soul. I wonder how effective it would be if I swallow it whole. With that thought in mind, Yi-chan did not hesitate anymore. He took out that 9-twist spirit plant with one leaf torn off and swallowed it whole. More cool chi spread out to his limbs and the light-colored vibration was like a clear spring, rushing into his soul ocean, bringing up hundreds of meters tall waves. Boom! Between his eyebrows, Yi-chan's eyebrows bulged like a King Kong pearl. He had sunk into a deep state. The soul ocean was the origin of the soul. The depth and size of the soul ocean represented the power of the soul. An entire plant of 9-twist reverse spirit plant had brought an unparalleled effect. Yi-chan only felt like he was floating in the air, as if his soul could carry his body, and a blurry door was slowly opening. When he opened his eyes again, a day had passed in the outside world. Is the strength of the soul the true strength? Yi-chan's strength hadn't increased at all, but he felt more confident and more powerful than before. It was as if he could make his opponent bow their heads without a fight with a single glance. This was strength from the inside out and a deep level of nobility. Quietly releasing his soul power, Yi-chan realized that the range of his soul power had increased by 30%, from 40 miles to 50 miles. I've already consumed one. I'll save the other one for later use in concocting pills. Medicinal pills were the crystallization of human wisdom. Compared to the original medicinal power of spiritual herbs, medicinal pills could increase the original medicinal power to a whole new level. Rising to his feet, Yi-chan flew to the air outside the cave. Grand Elder Chan and Lu Mei had noticed Yi-chan's movement, so they followed him out. The two exchanged a look with Yi-chan. They were both shocked, and there was a slight numbness in their bodies. Yi-chan's pupils were pitch black. Wherever his gaze landed, the air seemed to freeze, and a vague willpower started to affect the environment. Willpower in one's gaze? How is this possible? Grand Elder Chun was shocked. It was not that there were no warriors with willpower that was more powerful than Yi-chan's. All of the warriors who had condensed their martial spirits were more powerful than Yi-chan's willpower. However, they could only imbue their willpower into themselves, and could not affect others. Even Sea of Souls realm warriors could not imbue their eyes with willpower. Only the most powerful Sea of Souls realm warriors could do so. As the numbness disappeared, Grand Elder Chan and Lu Mei subconsciously felt respect for Yi-chan. The young man in front of them had a more powerful foundation than they had imagined. It was not something that a single 9-turn spirit grass could do. Yi-chan saw the two's strange expression and thought about something. He took back his gaze and said, "You two, let's continue looking for a way out." All right. As they got deeper, the rocks in the stone forest became more and more majestic. The three of them stopped in front of a majestic rock that was 3,000 meters tall. At the bottom of the rock, there was a 33 meters tall stone door. It was tightly shut, with human figures carved on both sides. Willpower door. Grand Elder Chun was twice as old as Yi-chan and Lu Mei combined. His knowledge was not something the two could compete with, so he could recognize the meaning of the stone door immediately. Willpower door? I have heard about it before. It seems like if one wants to open the door, one would have to go through the willpower attack of the human figures. If one could not handle it, then they would not be able to enter. Lu Mei took over the conversation. Grand Elder Chan nodded. With the existence of the willpower door, there should be no other way to enter. If we try to force our way in, there might be a disaster waiting for us. Then let's go in through the willpower door. Yi-chan was the first one to arrive in front of the door, reaching out his hand to push. Who? The two human figures seemed to have come back to life. They groaned angrily, as an invisible willpower made the air as thick as water, covering all three of them. Yi-chan looked straight ahead, his back straight. His own sword willpower clashed with the willpower of the two figures, and he did not take a single step back. Grand Elder Chan seemed to be extremely weak. Although the willpower attack was not real, it could be turned into reality. If he thought that he was hurt, then he was really hurt. Pooh! Puking out a mouthful of blood, Grand Elder Chen's face was extremely pale. Lu Mei was not much better than Grand Elder Chan. Under the willpower attack, the scene of her being thrown into the air appeared in her mind. The next second, she puked out a mouthful of blood, which matched her imagination. Kill! Yi-chan stood in the front, so he had to bear the strongest willpower attack. His whole body was like a small boat in the ocean drifting with the current. The ancient longsword above his soul sea vibrated as he pushed his sword intent, using the condensed sword intent to cut open the willpower. The illusion in his mind did not appear, nor did it move at all. After a long time, the willpower disappeared, and the stone door opened slowly. Huh! Letting out a heavy breath, Yi-chan turned around to look at Grand Elder Chan and Lu Mei. The two of them were sweating profusely, their faces pale, and their eyes filled with fear. Willpower to hurt people. How unbelievable! How powerful must one be to do that? Yi-chan could not imagine how horrifying the willpower contained in those statues was. Facing the willpower just now, the only thing he could do was to stay true to himself and use his sword intent to fight against it. After resting for a while, Grand Elder Chan and Lu Mei recovered a little. Let's go in. Grand Elder Chan really wanted to know what was inside the door of willpower. It must be something special. Entering the stone door, the first thing they saw was a wide field. In front of the field, there were 11 huge statues arranged in order. They were made of ordinary materials, which were gray without any color. Seemed like they would fall with one push. There was nothing special about them. Yi-chan realized that there were more than 11 statues. In between some of the statues there were a lot of broken stones which had the shape of the statues. Obviously they had been broken. Looking around, there were 7 broken statues in total. Adding the ones that were still intact, there were 18 of them in total. Grand Elder Chan was completely shocked. Willpower statues. 11 willpower statues. This is something even more horrifying than the door of willpower. Hearing him, Yi-chan frowned secretly as he walked slowly to the last statue. There was a stone plate on the ground in front of the statue, with 4 big words written on it: Gold Hand King. Gold Hand King. King. Was this not a statue of a life and death realm warrior? Yi-chan sucked in a breath of cold air. The will statues of the king warriors were not something to be trifled with. Who had set up 18 will statues inside this rock? What was with the shattered will statues? Why were there still 11 complete ones here? All of a sudden, a lot of thoughts flashed through Yi-chan's mind. Grand Elder Chan and Lu Mei walked over to have a look, and they were even more shocked. The willpower statues were also divided into different levels. Without a doubt, the king warrior's willpower was the top one. Grand Elder Chan was shocked for a while before he said slowly, "The willpower statues are different from the door of willpower. The door of willpower tests the warrior's willpower, and one would not be able to get much benefit from it. However, the willpower statues could allow the warrior to gain enlightenment. For example, if the owner of the willpower statue was a blade artist, then it would be best for a blade artist to take the test. If the owner was a fist art warrior, then it would be best for a fist art warrior to take the test. It would be the same for the others. Those broken willpower statues should have been taken by someone before, and then they broke on their own. The remaining 11 willpower statues have not been used yet. I think I will not take the test. The willpower attack from the door of willpower had almost broken me down. The king warrior's willpower attack would definitely shatter my willpower." Lu Mei took a deep breath, her eyes clear and bright. Grand Elder Chan nodded. The willpower of a life and death realm warrior could already affect reality. Although there is only a trace of willpower left in this statue, it is still not something that the door of willpower can compare with. Of course, the willpower of the statue is not fixed. It will increase according to the power of the warrior's willpower. If the warrior is already a life and death realm warrior, then the willpower in the statue would be the limit of the warrior's willpower. Grand Elder Chan, do you want to take the test of the willpower statue? Yi Chen asked. Grand Elder Chan hesitated for a while, then forced a smile and said, "Nah, it is too dangerous. Then the two of you can leave first." Lu Mei was surprised. "You want to take it?" "That's right." Taking the test of the willpower statue was a very dangerous thing to do, so Yi Chen had to ask the two to leave. Otherwise, if either one of them decided to do something bad to him at the critical moment, he would be doomed forever, which was not something he wanted to see. The two understood Yi Chen's intention, so they turned around and walked out of the stone door. Boom! The stone door was closed. If the two wanted to enter, they would have to take the test again. Before, Yi Chen had taken most of the willpower attack, so the two were only slightly wounded. Without Yi Chen, they would not be able to enter again. Taking a deep breath, Yi Chen walked back to the statue. "Finally, I implore everyone to vote for me." Chapter 371. The last King's Will statue was that of Golden Hand King. Unsurprisingly, this Gold Hand King specialized in hand arts. Apart from Sword Dao and Blade Dao, although the wills of other life and death kings were no different, there were definitely some subtle differences. For example, if a person who specialized in staff arts were to take the test of Gold Hand King's will, the result would certainly not be as good as a person who specialized in hand arts. The second last statue had already shattered, and 3 words were carved on it: Earth-Splitting King. The remaining statues were Wind Cloud Blade King, Divine Whip King, Silver Spear King, Dual Sword King, Tyrant Fist King, Chasing Wind King, Diamond King, Bewitching Eye King. The third was Iron Sword King, and the first was a titled Monarch Star Emperor. Every statue seemed ordinary, but when one calmed down and sensed their existence, the statues seemed to have come to life. Golden Hand King's Will statue shone with a golden light, and a sky-covering hand descended from the sky, leaving no place to escape. Wind Cloud Blade King's blade swept out, causing the heaven and earth to change color. Silver Spear King's silver spear pierced through the sky like a silver meteor. Dual Sword King held a sword in each hand, and the 2 swords intersected, severing vitality. Tyrant Fist King's fists filled one's field of vision, encompassing the heaven and earth. Wind Chasing King's attacks were formless and invisible, representing extreme speed. Diamond King's majestic muscles bulged, and each of his movements contained boundless might. Bewitching Eye King's pupils were vertical, and when they contracted, an indescribable power pierced through the void. The third-ranked Iron Sword King gave Yi Chen a taste of sword aura. With a casual wave of his sword, the mountains and rivers split apart. Everything before his eyes seemed like fleeting clouds. As for the Star Emperor, Yi Chen couldn't use words to describe him. He couldn't see the Star Emperor, and could only see the dark sky filled with countless stars. Meteors were falling from the sky at every moment, striking the ground. On this statue, Yi Chen could sense a trace of the will of the heavenly Tao, which could not be resisted. Is this the aura of a life and death king? And the second-ranked statue has some words on it. The second statue had been used by someone, and it was called Mysterious King. On the lower right corner of the stone slab were 2 lines of words. 18 remaining 15. Don't take Star Emperor, just Mysterious King. Through Mysterious Gate rise above emperors and attack heavenly will. Tian Qing Xian Yan Qing Xian Xian Ho? It was Xian Ho. The one who left these words was actually the world-famous Xian Ho. Xuan Ho's title was taken from her name, Yan Qing Xian. The word Xian was a homonym, and it was extremely mysterious. However, from the looks of it now, there was more than one meaning. The title of King of Mysteries also had a mysterious meaning, and Xian Ho had mentioned the door of mysteries in the words she left behind. The combination of the 3 meanings was the mystery of Xian Ho. The 2 lines of words contained Xuan Ho's lofty aspirations. 18 remaining 15 should mean that of the 18 statues, only 15 remained intact. Don't take Star Emperor meant that she didn't accept the trial of Star Emperor's statue, not that she didn't dare. It could be seen that Xian Ho had the ability to accept the trial of Star Emperor's statue, But she had given up. With mysterious gate rise above emperors and attack heavenly will, it was easy to guess that Xianhou already had her own Tao. This Tao was precisely the door of mysteries, which allowed her to rise above emperors and attack heavenly will. This is a powerful woman who pursues the peak. Yichun let out a breath. He could imagine that Xianhou wasn't a life and death king at that time, and she might not have even entered Sea of Soul realm. However, she didn't have the slightest doubt that she would vanish in the crowd. She even said that she would use her own Tao to surpass all emperors. Right now, she had already accomplished half of it. Under Su King, no one dared to say that they could surpass Xianhou. What was even more frightening was that Xuanhou's life had only just begun. Of course, the higher one's strength, the wider one's horizons. Yichun had long known that true spirit continent wasn't the whole world, and that life and death kings weren't limited to what they seemed on the surface. There were still many old monsters and demons who had been in seclusion for hundreds of years. When they returned, true spirit continent would be reshuffled. Among the 11 statues, there are 2 statues of sword kings. Let's start with dual sword king's will statue. Retracting his gaze, Yichun arrived before dual sword king's will statue. Dual sword king was a middle-aged man with a grim expression. He wore a golden crown on his head and a close-fitting battle robe on the outside. He had a wrist guard on his wrist and a sword on either side of his waist. These 2 swords weren't the same. The one on the left was slightly wider, while the one on the right was slightly longer. A faintly discernible murderous aura lingered around them. I wonder what dual sword king's sword will looks like. His expression suddenly turned grave and stern. The ancient longsword above Yichun's Sea of Soul trembled, and an all-conquering sword intent spread out on dual sword king's will statue. Kill! Kill! With the word kill resounding in his ears, a light figure walked out of dual sword king's will statue. As soon as this light figure appeared, Yichun knew that it was dual sword king's will image. A frightening pressure filled the heaven and earth. Even the void couldn't bear his presence and loudly collapsed. In the next moment, Yichun's pupils shrank. He saw dual sword king's will image pull out the 2 swords at his waist, crisscrossing them and slashing at an unimaginable speed. 2 huge cracks appeared in the space, and Yichun couldn't even move a finger. Rip! In a flash, Yichun's body shattered into thousands of pieces. Blood collided in the air and scattered in all directions like a huge flower of blood. Haha, my slaughter sword will connect the past and present. Die! Dual sword king's will image laughed crazily, his long hair fluttering in the wind. My will is immortal and inextinguishable. My soul is eternal. Your sword will is thousands of times stronger than mine, so what? This is just a remnant of your will. It can't affect reality. Everything is an illusion. Everything is fabricated. Reassemble. Blood spurted out from the corner of the eyes, and the lips on the flesh let out a loud roar. A horrifying light shot out from Yichun's eyes as his sword will spread out. In an instant, thousands of pieces of flesh reassembled, forming a complete body. Immortal sword will, what a familiar feeling. Who are you to battle king? No, sword will can't be inherited. Everyone has their own will. This should be the sword will, you comprehend it from Battle King. Battle King, since you have such achievements in sword will, why do you call yourself Battle King? I know you've always wanted to call yourself Sword King, or even Sword Emperor. Unfortunately, the title of Sword King has already been taken by the ancients. Today's titled monarchs were just weak monarchs in the ancient times. A single Sword King could beat everyone under the heavens. Dual Sword King's will image murmured to himself. Then his eyes fell on Yichun. Your will is very young. You should be a little brat. Brat, what is your goal? Yichun didn't know if the other could hear him or not, but he said resolutely, my goal is very simple. I want to become stronger step by step. Haha, I can't hear your voice, but I can feel your will. Brat, attack the Sword King. Wait until the day you become a Sword King. There should be no one under the heavens who can be your opponent. Since ancient times, no one has ever surpassed the ancient Sword Kings in sword will. Buzz! After saying this, the dual Sword King's will image turned into countless light dots and dissipated. The will statue behind him cracked and collapsed. Looking straight at the rubble, Yichun thought, slaughter sword will, what an amazing sword will. If it was still alive, its will could affect reality, and I would have already died 1,000 times. When a person is dead, the will has no support and can only exist in nothingness. However, if it is deceived by the illusion, then it is true death. There is only a fine line between life and death. Closing his eyes, Yichun felt the moment just now. Dual Sword King was famous for his dual swords. One sword was for killing everyone in front of him. The other was for massacring, slaughtering the world. With the two swords combined, he became a king. After a long time, Yichun opened his eyes. This is not my sword Dao, but I can use it as a reference. Moving his feet, Yichun arrived in front of Iron Sword King's Will statue, which was ranked third. Iron Sword King's Will statue's expression was very calm, with a trace of loneliness. The simple and unadorned iron sword was casually inserted into the ground, slanted and 3 feet away from his palm. Calming his mind, Yichun urged his sword intent to radiate onto Iron Sword King's Will statue. Iron Sword King's Will image walked out step by step. He didn't attack Yichun, but looked up at the sky and said, "It's getting dark." Yichun's eyes were firm, unmoved. "Your sword will has an immortal nature. Among the younger generation, only Battle King has this potential. However, you are not him. Your will is more reserved, while his will has always been one of supremacy. Perhaps you are his successor." Iron Sword King's words made Yichun realize that this person had become famous before Battle King. When he died, Battle King hadn't reached the legendary level. My will is the destruction sword will. With one sword, all things will be destroyed. Take advantage of the darkness to make your move. Clang! Pulling out the iron sword phantom beside him, Iron Sword King's Will image calmly stood there. After experiencing the slaughter sword will, Yichun's heart was as calm as an ancient well. Extinguish! With a casual wave of the iron sword, heaven and earth ceased to exist, and everything turned into primal chaos. Previously, Yichun had secretly estimated Iron Sword King's sword will, but with a wave of his sword, he immediately understood that Iron Sword King's sword will was twice as strong as Dual Sword King's. It was uncertain whether Battle King's achievements were higher than his. Body and soul instantly annihilated. Yichun couldn't feel himself. He was muddle-headed and lost all his 5 senses. Drifting with the current, it was as if he had disappeared from this world. A speck of brilliance lit up. It was the essence of Yichun's will. Immortal! Immortal! Reassemble! Faintly, Yichun's 5 senses gradually recovered, but he didn't have a body. He roared and automatically condensed a will image, contending against Iron Sword King's destruction sword will. Not bad, you have grasped the essence of immortality and firmly believe that you are immortal. Iron Sword King's Will image nodded with a smile. Chapter 372. At this moment, Yichun didn't have a body. Strictly speaking, he didn't have a body in the world of will. In the real world, he just stood there motionlessly, looking at the Iron Sword King's Will statue in front of him. There were traces of cracks spreading on the statue. They were very small, but they were already showing signs of collapsing. Feeling the will image condensed in his body, Yichun's 5 senses were very subtle. He could see things he couldn't see before and sense mysteries he couldn't sense before. He was very clear that he could condense the will image only under the guidance of Iron Sword King's will. In reality, he was still far from it. Trying his best to counteract Iron Sword King's destruction sword Dao will, Yichun's will image gradually turned blurry, wanting to return to reality. Right at this moment, the storage ring on Yichun's finger flickered with a dim light, and the broken Battle King's sword shook uncontrollably. Iron Sword King, long time no see. In the world of will, another will image appeared. This will image was 2 meters tall, with a steel-cast body that was perfectly straight, as if it could support the sky. His eyes were cold and resolute as he looked straight at Iron Sword King. In his right hand was a sword, which was the intact Battle King's sword. Battle King's will image had appeared. "Oh, Battle King, didn't expect you to leave a will in this kid's body." Iron Sword King's brows twitched, somewhat astonished. Battle King glanced at Yichun's will image. "He's not my successor, but he can be counted as my successor. The connection between us is nothing more than a broken sword." The two didn't speak as they couldn't hear each other. This was an exchange of wills. "You've appeared now. Are you planning to exchange pointers with me in Sword Dao? That's right. Battle King didn't only have sword intent, but also a battle intent that could break through the shackles of heaven and earth. His jet-black long hair danced in the sky. Iron Sword King revealed an expression of, as expected, I'm already dead. This will has one last attack left. I hope your immortal Sword Dao will let me have a good time. Bring out your sword. Bring out your sword. After several hundred years, the two kings of Sword Dao met once again. Although it was only a confrontation of wills, it was not something ordinary people could see. On the path of Sword Dao, whose accomplishments were greater would be revealed at this moment. Yi Chan held his breath as he stared unblinkingly at the two's will images. Clang! Blazing flames soared into the sky. It was impossible to see the movements of the two. Almost in an instant, the swords of the Battle King and Iron Sword King collided with each other as they poured all their strength into their swords. Roar! The Iron Sword King roared. The gaze emitted from his eyes was even more frightening than the sword chi. My achievements have long surpassed yours. Retreat! It had to be said that the Battle King's immortal sword will was exceptionally frightening. No matter how the destruction sword will attacked, it was still able to maintain its original form and forcibly resist the attack from a distance. On the other hand, the destruction sword will was gradually being whittled away, causing the Iron Sword King's will image to rapidly dim. Destroy! The Iron Sword King roared again. His body fused with the sword will and crazily slashed at the battle monarch. The willpower that could destroy everything turned the world into primal chaos. I'll show you the true essence of the immortal sword will. A sword intent that was so vast that it could pierce through the sky burst out fiercely. The sword intent was like a vast ocean, one wave higher than the other, never stopping. In front of an even more powerful sword intent, the destruction sword will could only launch a futile attack and then be blocked. Amazing! Your sword Dao is indeed above mine. Countless specks of light scattered. The Iron Sword King's will fluctuation grew weaker and weaker until it finally disappeared. Sheathing his sword, the battle monarch turned around. Your immortality is different from mine, do you understand? Yi Chen didn't expect that the battle monarch's first words would be this. After pondering for a moment, he slowly said, I understand. Everyone's willpower was different because people were born with differences. Imitating someone else's path would only end up shackling oneself. To be able to comprehend your own immortal sword will from my sword intent, no wonder you could reach this step. After a pause, the battle monarch continued, I have nothing left for you. I will impart all of my Sword Dao experiences into your mind to help you advance further. Raising his right index and middle fingers, the battle monarch pointed at the space between Yi Chen's eyebrows. Buzz! Countless chaotic information poured into Yi Chen's soul sea, almost causing it to collapse. Yi Chen was overwhelmed with shock. The battle monarch's method was simply unfathomable. He was actually able to impart his Sword Dao experiences into someone else's mind. Don't be surprised. My sword will is the immortal sword will, and my Sword Dao experiences also have an immortal nature. If it were someone else, no matter how strong they were, they wouldn't be able to do anything. After saying the last sentence, the battle monarch's will image collapsed. After an unknown amount of time, the Yi Chen in the real world opened his eyes. Dual Sword King, Iron Sword King, Battle Monarch, many thanks. From the Dual Sword King's Slaughter Sword Will and the Iron Sword King's Destruction Sword Will, Yi Chen had gained a lot. However, he still couldn't convert them into real battle power. Battle Monarch's Immortal Sword Will had given Yi Chen a direct epiphany. Once his sword will reached perfection, he would be able to advance by leaps and bounds. First, let me take a look at the Battle Monarch's Sword Dao experiences. Sinking his consciousness into his soul sea, Yi Chen wandered through the unfamiliar information flow. At the age of 13, he left home and joined a small and weak gang. Amidst bloody and fiery battles, he comprehended sword will and became a gang leader. At the age of 16, he entered clasping Yuan realm, and by 17, he could be said to be unrivaled in clasping Yuan realm. At 19, he entered astral reaching realm. Roaming the continent, he met young sword artists everywhere, and fought countless times. His sword skills became increasingly exquisite, and his sword will became increasingly intense. At the age of 22, there was no young sword artist on True Spirit continent who could be his opponent. At 25, he sensed sword intent as a rootless source, and comprehended the immortal will. At 26, he advanced to Sea of Soul realm with a solid foundation, and became the youngest life and death king in hundreds of years, and was called Battle Monarch. Time flowed like water, and Battle Monarch's life replayed in Yi Chen's mind. Without a doubt, Battle Monarch's experiences were incomparable to Yi Chen's, and what Yi Chen lacked was precisely experience. Without enough experience, his sword will could not be perfected, and could not advance further. This had nothing to do with talent or comprehension, but was purely a kind of perfection of the soul. Perfection of sword will was not much different from greater success sword will in terms of power. However, everyone knew that incomplete sword will was incomplete, and there were still flaws and loopholes. Battle Monarch's sword Dao experience filled in the blanks of Yi Chen's experience. A shattering sound seemed to resound in the depths of his heart, and his sword will rejoiced as if it had regained its freedom. This is perfection. So that's how it is. Yi Chen could feel that his sword will had already become perfect, without a single flaw. In the future, the only thing that mattered would be the difference in strength. After perfection of sword will, it is time to condense the sword soul. I believe that because I comprehended the immortal sword will, before my sword will reach perfection, it already had the shape of a sword soul embryo, but I haven't reached the realm yet. With the huge Battle King's sword will as his database, Yi Chen's knowledge of sword will was not inferior to any sword king. Only then did he realize that the ancient longsword above his soul was actually the sword soul embryo, and that warriors could also condense the martial soul embryo, just like Shen Tujue. The sword soul was about attacking power. The martial soul was about all aspects. It was hard to say which of the two was better, but the key lay in the user's usage. Reaching perfection of sword will still require a long period of time before I have enough willpower to condense the sword soul embryo. However, I am different from ordinary sword artists. Before I reach the realm, my sword will automatically condense into the sword soul embryo, which saves me a lot of time. Now let me continue. Condensing the sword soul embryo required a huge amount of willpower. Fortunately, Yi Chen had refined 4 blood evil stones, one of which contained a huge amount of willpower, which was equivalent to 4 ordinary blood evil stones. The amount of willpower stored in it was enough to support him to the next step. Above his soul sea, the silver mist poured into the ancient longsword. The ancient longsword vibrated and gradually, a faint silver color appeared. Trace by trace, the speed at which the ancient longsword devoured the willpower became faster and faster. From time to time, a sharp sword would leak out from the soul sea. Bang! All of the silver mist had been devoured, and the ancient-looking longsword expanded by a couple of times, growing from a finger long to 3 fingers long. The rich sword intent was condensed and contained within. As the owner of the sword spirit, Yi Chen felt unprecedentedly powerful. If I were an ordinary sword artist, I would have condensed a true sword soul by now. However, I am still at the sword soul embryo realm. To condense a true sword soul embryo, the amount of willpower required would be enormous. However, merely based on the amount of sword will, it is several times more than an ordinary sword artist's sword soul embryo, which is equivalent to the might of a true sword soul. In this aspect, I have already surpassed any astral-reaching realm sword artist, and am no different from an ordinary Sea of Soul realm sword artist. Extending his right index finger, a green lotus sword chi pierced out. Puff, puff, puff. The sword chi not only pierced through the rock Yi Chen was standing on, it even pierced through 3 nearby rocks. On the wrist-sized sword hole, the sword will didn't dissipate, making one's hair stand on end. Its might has doubled. If Grand Elder Chen were to hear these words, he would certainly be dumbstruck. Before this, Yi Chen was already an astral-reaching paragon. Now that his offensive power had doubled, it could no longer be described with words. Among astral-reaching experts, who could defeat Yi Chen? In other words, the iron rule of astral-reaching paragon was on the verge of shattering. In the past, it was not that there had never been battles between astral-reaching paragon. At most they would have the upper hand, but there was no possibility of casualties. Who could have known that a person like Yi Chen would appear? In terms of invincibility, perhaps from now on, there would only be one astral-reaching paragon, Yi Chen. One day, when my attainments in the Sword Dao reach the Combat King level, I will be able to absorb all the knowledge I can use to temper my Sword Dao. Leave it to the Fated One. Yi-chan resolutely turned around and walked towards the tightly shut stone door. Boom! The stone door slowly opened from the inside. Through the gap, Yi-chan saw Grand Elder Chan and Lu Mei sitting on the ground with their eyes closed. Grand Elder Yi, did you succeed? As soon as Grand Elder Chan said those words, he regretted it immediately. It was not bullshit. If he did not succeed, then he would die. Taking the test of willpower was not like a master teaching his disciple. There was only a fine line between life and death. Obviously, since Yi-chan had made it out alive, then he had passed the test. Yi-chan didn't care about Grand Elder Chen's words and nodded. You really don't want to take the trial? This is a rare opportunity. Lu Mei shook her head. No, the King Will statue's trial is not something anyone can take. Moreover, I'll be satisfied if I can reach the Sea of Soul realm in this lifetime. As for higher realms, I don't have any extravagant hopes. It seems that accepting the King Will statue's trial won't give me the aptitude to enter the life and death realm. So why should I take the risk? Grand Elder Lu is right. Not everyone can take the King Will attack. On True Spirit Continent, only 3 out of 10 people who take the King Will statue's trial can survive. And these 10 are all astonishing geniuses. We can't even compare to them. Yi-chan turned silent. Just as the two had said, accepting the trial was indeed a dangerous action. Dual Sword King's Slaughter Sword will had instantly sliced his will into thousands of pieces. If it were someone else, they wouldn't believe that they were still alive. In that case, they would really die in reality. Without any mishaps, Iron Sword King's Destruction Sword will was twice as frightening as the Slaughter Sword will. His will had been completely shattered, and he couldn't even sense his own existence. His life and death were unknown. If not for his immortal intent, Yi-chan believed that his chances of surviving would be less than 30%. Accepting the King Will statue's trial required one to have the qualifications. Otherwise, there would be no chance of survival. Before leaving, Grand Elder Chan and Lu Mei glanced at the half-closed stone gate and were greatly alarmed. Of the 11 King Will statues, 2 had collapsed. Didn't this mean that Yi-chan had accepted the trial of 2 will statues in a row? This kind of will was enough to shock anyone. There's a conveyor gate in the stone forest, but it hasn't been activated. Yi-chan's soul power had a vast range. On the 3rd day, he finally found a hope of leaving. Of course, in order to conceal his soul power, Yi-chan didn't immediately explain. Instead, he intentionally or unintentionally approached the gate, and only spoke of his discovery when he was less than 15 li away. Conveyor gate. Haha, there's hope. Grand Elder Chan let out a sigh of relief. This place was extremely desolate. If he were to stay here for the rest of his life, he would surely die. On the other hand, Bewilderment Fog Island had a population of more than 10 million, and there were many experts as well. Lu Mei also revealed a smile. Although it hasn't been activated, it's still better than having no hope at all. The conveyor gate was slightly damaged, and there were some ancient patterns carved on it. The patterns shone faintly. Obviously, this was not an abandoned conveyor gate. Let's join hands and pour in Zhen Yuan to see if we can activate it, Grand Elder Chun suggested. All right. Yi-chan and Lu Mei nodded. Ha! The 3 of them stood at 3 different angles and slowly placed their hands on the gate. Their Zhenyuan started to boil and pour in at a constant speed. As the Zhenyuan continued to pour in, the light on the patterns became brighter and brighter. After a while, a black light traveled along the patterns. Woo! The patterns lit up, and a black whirlpool appeared inside the stone gate. Let's go! The 3 of them stepped into the black vortex at the same time and disappeared from sight. The thick fog covered the entire place, and one couldn't even see their own fingers. 3 figures appeared out of nowhere, floating above the lake. Haha, Grand Elder Yi, Grand Elder Lu, our luck is really good. We were actually transported within 1,000 li of Bewilderment Fog Island. The sensory ball is reacting. Grand Elder Chun took out the sensory ball from his storage ring. Seeing the dangerous orange light flickering on it, he couldn't help but laugh heartily. Yi-chun chuckled. Being able to walk out of there alive is already luck in itself. Right, with 500 beasts, even an astral-reaching paragon would have little hope of surviving. Of course, this is all thanks to Grand Elder Yi. Without Yi Chun, even if the three hid underground, they wouldn't have been able to escape from the beast's pursuit. After all, at the astral-reaching realm, who could use soul power? Soul power was higher than mind power. Even if they scanned the beasts, they wouldn't be discovered. If it were any other astral-reaching paragon, they wouldn't even dare to use mind power to explore the way. How could they escape? Let's return to Bewilderment Fog Island. Yeah, let's go. With the sensory ball, the three didn't need to worry about getting lost, and headed straight for Bewilderment Fog Island. Bewilderment Fog Palace Hall. What? The three of them came out alive? The island lord of Bewilderment Fog Island, the black-robed old man, was very surprised, but soon revealed a smile. He thought to himself, the rumor of the reversed 9-turn spirit grass isn't fake. It really exists. According to secret information, several hundred years ago, someone disappeared for no reason and suddenly reappeared. One time when he was drunk, he unintentionally revealed the news of obtaining the reversed 9-turn spirit grass and was chased by others. Presumably, the three of them have hope of obtaining the reversed 9-turn spirit grass. Haha, tell them to come here. The black-robed old man said to the attendant who was bowing. Yes. The attendant turned around and left the hall. Soon, Yi Chun and the other two arrived outside the hall. Come in. The black-robed old man didn't inform anyone. He didn't want the news of the 9-turn spirit grass to spread. Yi Chun and the other two entered the hall. Greetings, Island Master. Grand Elder Chun and Lu Mei cupped their hands. Yi Chun slightly bowed. The black-robed old man creased his brows and glanced at Yi Chun, then said, I'm very happy that the three of you can return safely. What about the others? Grand Elder Chun said sadly, they're all dead, and the ship has been destroyed. You were being chased? Right, there were a lot of bewilderment fog beasts inside. Being able to come out alive is a great fortune. Grand Elder Chun spoke vaguely, not giving too many details. Firstly, it was because of Yi Chun. Secondly, they had harvested a lot of rare spirit grasses and didn't intend to hand them over. So that's how it is. Being able to come out alive is indeed a great fortune. The black-robed old man faintly nodded and said, however, your harvest this time is certainly not small. Hand over your storage rings. I'll only take a portion. I won't let you leave empty-handed. He couldn't directly say that he wanted the 9-turn spirit grass, so he asked the three to hand over their storage rings. Grand Elder Chun and Lu Mei's complexion suddenly changed. Island Master, there doesn't seem to be such a rule, right? Bewilderment Fog Ship's purpose was indeed to search for 9-turn spirit grass, but it didn't say that personal gains would belong to Bewilderment Fog Island. Instead, it was used to report back after discovering a secret location. At that time, all the experts of Bewilderment Fog Island would naturally be dispatched. The black-robed old man's expression turned cold. What? I told you to hand it over, and you'll hand it over. Don't forget the consequences of defying me. At this moment, Yi Chun spoke, forgive me, but I can't comply. Grand Elder Yi, you've got guts. Do you think you can defy me just because your cultivation base has made some progress? I spared your life before and I can kill you now. The black-robed old man shouted. Grand Elder Chun and Lu Mei exchanged a glance. Although they were mentally prepared, they were still somewhat afraid when the matter came to a head. Island Master's prestige had been accumulated for a long time, and had long been deeply ingrained in their hearts. Normally, they wouldn't dare defy Island Master. Grand Elder Lu, what do you think? Grand Elder Chun transmitted his Zhenyuan to Lu Mei. Lu Mei muttered, I believe in Yi Chun. After getting along for a period of time, they clearly understood Yi Chun's strength. He was basically invincible. Yi Chun said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, we risked our lives to obtain this. Why do we need your permission to obtain it? The black-robed old man said in an awe-inspiring tone, because I'm the controller of Bewilderment Fog Island. Those who don't listen will all die. Grand Elder Yi, you've already committed a capital offense. Do you understand? Although he didn't use an upper-grade offensive artifact just now, he believed that he could deal with Yi Chun with just his palms. After all, before obtaining an upper-grade artifact, he was already one of the strongest extreme astral-reaching experts. Dozens of years of bitter cultivation had allowed his basic strength to increase without diminishing. Dealing with a young extreme astral-reaching expert was a piece of cake for him. But now he finally understood that Yi Chen's strength was not what the outside world had estimated. No wonder you dared to defy me. It turns out that you were hiding your true strength. Don't tell me you think you can act presumptuously in front of me with just this bit of strength? Recollecting his shocked expression, the black-robed old man spread out his hands. A dark blue light flickered, and 2 huge iron hammers appeared in his hands. These 2 hammers were more than a meter long, and their handles were as thick as a wrist. The heads of the hammers were 2 cylinders, glowing with a pitch-black metallic luster. Under the black-robed old man's zhanyuan, the ends of the hammers burst out with sharp dark blue lightning, and an incomparably frightening might instantly spread out. Without a doubt, the iron hammers were upper-grade artifacts. A mid-grade artifact's might couldn't even compare to half of its might. Upper-grade artifact. Exploding thunder hammer. Grand Elderchin blurted out. Holding the hammer with both hands, the black-robed old man's eyes filled with killing intent as he said sinisterly, I found this upper-grade artifact in the ancient ruins. Relying on it, I've killed at least 8 extreme astral-reaching experts, if not 10. You'll be the next. Thunder attribute upper-grade artifact is indeed not ordinary. Among the different types of offensive great weapons, the thunder and fire great weapons were the most overbearing, the earth great weapons were the thickest, the metal great weapons were the sharpest, and the wind great weapons could not only increase one's attack power, but could also increase one's speed. Hammer-type offensive artifacts were originally full of killing power. Coupled with the tyrannical thunder attribute, it was like adding wings to a tiger, breaking through everything. Swish! A long sword appeared in Yi Chen's left hand as he slowly said, I've never exchanged blows with an astral-reaching paragon. Today, I'll use you to sharpen my sword. How arrogant! Take my furious thunder explosion. The black-robed old man rose from the ground, and the muscles on his arms swelled up. An incomparably vigorous thunder attribute zhanyuan poured into the exploding thunder hammer, which ferociously smashed toward Yi Chen, who was not far away. Before the hammer arrived, the ferocious hammer pressure immediately blasted away half of the hall. Berserk lightning snakes swam everywhere, pervading hundreds of meters in radius. Thunder mentality containing explosive power. Facing the black-robed old man's pair of iron hammers, Yi Chen was still in the mood to study his opponent's mentality. It was common knowledge that mentalities were divided into attributes. Apart from the natural attribute mentalities, there were many other attributes. Moreover, mentalities of the same attribute would also differ from person to person. The black-robed old man's thunder mentality contained a kind of explosive power. With a swing of the hammer, the powerful hammer pressure instantly blasted away half of the hall. It was even more offensive than the ordinary thunder mentality. My sky-shattering clouds contains an intense explosive power. Let's see whose thunder mentality is a notch higher. Clang! Unsheathing the thunder sword, Yi Chen held it with one hand and swung out. The sword's swinging speed was full of explosive power, causing the void to tremble. Pung 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 pung, thunderous explosions resounded. In a short period of time, Yi Chen and the black-robed old man exchanged dozens of blows. Each time they adopted a head-on stance, neither giving way to the other. Finally, the entire foggy hall could no longer endure the exchange of blows and shattered into thousands of pieces, scattering in every direction. Who is fighting in the foggy hall? The numerous grand elders and elders of Bewilderment Fog Island were startled, their faces filled with shock. Soon after, they all rushed in the direction of the exchange. Sub-Island Master's residence. Sub-Island Master Wang raised his head and slightly creased his brows. Among the auras exchanging blows, one was unexpectedly Bewilderment Fog Island's Island Master, while the other was somewhat unfamiliar. He seemed to have seen it before, yet also seemed to have never seen it before. In terms of basic strength, Island Master and I are more or less the same. However, Island Master has 2 upper-grade artifacts. One is the exploding thunder hammer, and the other is the defensive artifact golden armor. With this golden armor, even if Sub-Island Master Chui and I joined hands, it would still be difficult to break through his defense. Therefore, Island Master is him, Not me or Sub-Island Master Chui. This person can fight evenly with Island Master, so his strength is not below mine. Unfortunately, Island Master is innately undefeatable. Swish. Sub-Island Master Wang's feet moved, soaring into the sky. In another Sub-Island Master's residence, Sub-Island Master Chui woke up from his cultivation. With a wave of his palm, the door opened, and his body streaked across the horizon like a blade light. The residences of Sub-Island Master, Grand Elders, and Elders weren't far from the foggy hall. In a short period of time, apart from those who were out on business, all the higher-ups of Bewilderment Fog Island had arrived. Everyone's gaze fell on the center of the foggy hall, which had been razed to the ground. Immediately they were dumbstruck. The one fighting with Island Master was unexpectedly Yi-chan, who had become a Grand Elder some time ago. This kid has eaten a leopard's gall, daring to fight with Island Master, a middle-aged Grand Elder said. Grand Elder Sun's gaze was filled with schadenfreude. I told you this kid wasn't anything good. Seems like the position of Grand Elder can't satisfy him, and he has his eyes set on the position of Island Master. He doesn't know how to write the word, death. Swish. Swish. Sub-Island Master Wang and Sub-Island Master Chui arrived. Sub-Island Master. Everyone cupped their hands towards the two. Sub-Island Master Wang said, "Do you know what happened? We just arrived as well." Nodding, Sub-Island Master Wang's gaze fell on the black-robed old man. Then he shifted his gaze. This time he was shocked, forcing Island Master to use the explosive thunder hammer. This strength is no less than yours or mine. Hearing this, Sub-Island Master Chui said solemnly, "He still has some strength left." Still has strength left? Sub-Island Master Wang was quite surprised. If these words came from someone else, he would not believe them. But Sub-Island Master Chui was a saber expert, and his eyesight was the sharpest. Naturally, he would not speak carelessly. Gradually, the many Grand Elders and Elders also saw some clues. After fighting for such a long time, Island Master still hadn't gained the upper hand. Could it be that this kid's strength could already contend against Island Master? Impossible, Island Master hasn't used his killing move yet. Elder Sun immediately denied. Indeed, it's not that there haven't been experts who exchanged a few moves with Island Master in the past, but once Island Master used his killing move, none of them survived. This kid is no exception. Let's see how he dies. Sub-Island Master Wang also shook his head. Too reckless. Not only had Island Master not used his killing move, he hadn't even activated his golden armor. Even if Yi Chen's strength was exceedingly high, he still couldn't do anything to Island Master. After fighting for a long time, the black-robed old man's mood started to become irritable. He roared, "Good, you're the third person to be able to exchange so many moves with me in dozens of years. But the next move will take your dog life." Thunder Lion Transformation. Cracking the ground with one foot, the black-robed old man soared into the sky and raised his iron hammer high above his head. Violent thunderbolts gathered at the hammer's head, constantly compressing and mixing, quickly condensing into a lion baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. The lion roared, and a terrifying pressure covered the heaven and earth. Bang! The two hammers suddenly smashed down, and the Thunder Lion rushed out, diving towards Yi-chan. Green Lotus Sprout. Putting the Thunder Sword back into its scabbard, the Greenwood Sword unsheathed. Still holding the sword with one hand, Yi-chan swung it, and the sword light surged, meeting the Thunder Lion head-on. Puff! 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 Like fireworks exploding, the Thunder Lion was drowned in the sword light. However, this move was, after all, the black-robed old man's killing move, which contained an extremely condensed thunder power. As the sword light came into contact with it, it immediately dimmed. But in the next moment, the dimmed sword light exploded with an even more frightening power, going from weak to strong. Not only did it tear apart the Thunder Lion's body, a beam of sword light even pierced through the lion's forehead. Chapter 375. The Thunder Lion transformation has been broken. Impossible. This attack contains 20% of my power. No one in the astral reaching realm would be able to break it. There must be something wrong, it must be. Brat go die. Thunder Lion 100 Fission. The black-robed old man's face was full of disbelief. His Thunder Lion transformation had killed countless people, but it had never been broken in a direct confrontation. His face twisted as he furiously roared. The twin hammers vibrated and thunder crackled. Another Thunder Lion rushed out, exploding into countless palm-sized lightning balls. The lightning balls shot out like rain, enveloping Yi-chan within. Unparalleled astral-reaching strength is only SOSO. Yi-chan had a rough idea of the black-robed old man's bottom line. Without changing his sword move, his sword aura soared into the sky. With a slash, the lightning balls in the sky were instantly annihilated. Pung! The incomparably sharp sword chi tore through the void and slashed at the black-robed old man's body, blasting him 1,000 meters away. Island Master has been defeated. Am I seeing things? Breaking Island Master's killing move with one sword. Even the Vice Island Master couldn't do it. Could it be that we misjudged him? This kid is pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. As the Island Master was blasted away, the surroundings became deathly silent. In the next moment, a clamor of discussion spread out, accompanied by the sound of people sucking in cold breaths. Grand Elder Sun clenched his fists, his veins popping out. He didn't believe that Yi-chan had such strength. Previously, although he had fallen into a disadvantageous position, it would have taken at least several hundred moves to decide the victor. How many days had it been? The opponent's battle power couldn't have reached such a realm. Don't argue, Island Master won't lose. Grand Elder Sun shouted. Sub-Island Master Wang and Sub-Island Master Chui exchanged a glance. The two could see the graveness in each other's eyes. An unconcealable graveness. Whether the Island Master had gone all out or not, they were the clearest. However, even the Island Master couldn't resist Yi-chen's attack. Without a doubt, Yi-chen's battle power had already surpassed theirs. A several-meter-wide and 1,000-meter-long ravine was plowed out of the palace, practically splitting the palace into two. At the end of the ravine, dust and lightning surged. Huff! A scorching gale swept up the smoke and dust. The figure of the black-robed old man stood there. His body was filled with a layer of golden light, and the golden light was filled with electric currents. Raising his head, the black-robed old man looked at Yi-chan in the distance. I have to admit that you're the most powerful astral-reaching expert I've ever met. But if you want to defeat me, it won't be that easy. The reason I was able to sit on the Island Master's seat is not only because of my exploding thunder hammer, but also because of this golden armor on my body, an upper-grade defensive artifact. No one under Sea of Soul Realm can break through my defense, and neither can you. A high-grade defensive artifact, the golden armor. The Island Lord actually has two high-grade artifacts, one for offense and one for defense. From the looks of it, this brat is dead for sure. So what if his battle prowess is stronger than the Island Lord's? With the defense of the golden armor, the Island Lord can slowly torture him to death. That's right. A high-grade defensive prized artifact can increase one's defense by 70 to 80%. Compared to the young Yi-chan, everyone was more willing to obey the black-robed elder's management. Perhaps this was a subtle jealousy, and the happiest person was Eminent Elder Sunday, a high-grade defensive artifact, the golden armor. Very well, I'll take it. Yi-chan wasn't too interested in the black-robed elder's explosion thunder hammer. He didn't expect that apart from the explosion thunder hammer, the elder also had a golden armor. Nonsense. With the golden armor on me, I'm innately invincible. You have no hope at all. Thunder Lion 100 Fission. The black-robed elder didn't fear Yi-chen's attack at all. His figure rushed out in a straight line, and along the way the explosion thunder hammer crazily smashed towards Yi-chan. This was the stance of exchanging a life for a life. Of course, the black-robed elder didn't care. Then let me see how hard your tortoise shell is. The ancient longsword above the Sea of Soul vibrated, and the sky-tearing sword intent surged violently under Vice Island Lord Chui's shocked gaze. Taking a step forward, Yi-chan held the greenwood sword and slashed out. Clang, clang, clang. The sword intent contained in this sword was too strong, causing all the broken objects in the surroundings to be affected by the sword intent, shooting towards the black-robed elder. Even some elders with lower willpower were affected by the sword intent, and the artifacts in their hands shook violently. Dong! The menacing black-robed elder was blasted away, blood leaking out from the corner of his mouth. The frightening sword Qi, even through the golden armor's defense, still brought him considerable injuries. Even the upper-grade artifacts seemed to be of no use. Break. Taking the second step, Yi-chan waved the second sword. This sword was even more powerful than the first. Blood flowed from the black-robed elder's 7 apertures, and his hair was scattered. With the third sword, the black-robed elder finally spurted out a mouthful of blood. Ah! The black-robed elder roared, his heart filled with fear. Go! All of you go! Kill him together! Go! At this very moment, the pressure that Yi-chan brought to the black-robed elder was unbearable. He understood that if this continued, even with the golden armor's protection, he would still be shaken to death. This young man, who seemed to be in his 20s, had shattered his understanding, shattering the undefeatable iron rule of astral-reaching paragons. He was just like Xianhou back then, disregarding the rules, disregarding everything. Any normal theory would no longer be effective against her. However, Yi-chan was another case. Island Master has asked us to act. Should we? Even the Island Master has lost. Would it be effective for us to go up? If we can't kill him, once he returns, we'll all die. Grand Elder Sun sucked in a deep breath. Everyone, don't be afraid. His attacks are only a bit powerful. He doesn't have an upper-grade artifact on him. If we attack together, we won't be afraid of not being able to kill him. We have more than 100 people. Killing him will be a piece of cake. Seems reasonable. Kill. Kill. Among the crowd, nearly half of them charged out. The remaining ones either had some apprehensions or planned to observe the situation. There were also some who simply wanted to watch the show and didn't intend to act. Brother Cui. Sub-Island Master Wang looked at Sub-Island Master Cui. Sub-Island Master Cui indifferently said, "If you want to act, then do it." "I won't act." "I won't either." With Grand Elder Sun in the lead, dozens of people brandished their weapons and attacked Yi-chan from all directions. A chaotic and frightening aura converged together, shaking the surrounding 100. Yi-chan sneered. Before his sword intent had progressed, he might have been apprehensive of being surrounded. But now, as long as he didn't want to, nobody could surround him. Shoo! Who said that sword intent could only increase one's attacking power? Yi-chan's entire body was filled with sword intent, as his speed surpassed his previous limits. With a flicker, he had left the encirclement. Green lotus chi, floating corpses everywhere. The greenwood sword streaked in front of him, shattering the huge green lotus. Dense sword chi spread out in a fan shape, covering all the grand elders and elders of Bewilderment Fog Island. Shoo 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 shoo. The sword chi containing the frightening sword intent was unstoppable. Wherever it swept through, people would fall down. Protective Zhenyuan mid-grade artifacts. All of them were like floating clouds. One blink, only one blink, more than half of the dozens of people who had charged up were gone. The remaining ones were all wounded and had frightened expressions. Yi-chan didn't give them any time to regret. He used the most tyrannical move of the Green Lotus sword art, Green Lotus Mountain Splitter. The sky-high sword light swept across the sky, throwing away the corpses. Run! The survivors regretted so much that their intestines turned green. Who the hell said that killing him would be easy? This kid was definitely a freak. Group attacks were ineffective. Unless a large number of extreme astral-reaching experts surrounded him and attacked him together, no matter how many people came, they would all be vegetables. Sub-Island Master Wang, save me. One person charged towards Sub-Island Master Wang and Sub-Island Master Cui, hoping to obtain their protection. Sub-Island Master Wang shook his head and dodged. Sub-Island Master Cui was even more straightforward. With a wave of his blade, a figure was cut in half. Seeing this, the Grand Elders and Elders who didn't participate in the battle sucked in a breath of cold air. Even the 2 Sub-Island Masters had rebelled. Fortunately, they weren't hot-headed. You 2 actually dared to betray me. The black-robed old man didn't expect Sub-Island Master Cui to be so ruthless and directly kill the person who had begged for help. Sub-Island Master Cui coldly said, "When did I pledge allegiance to you? You've been the Island Master for so many years. It's time for you to step down. Good, very good. You'd better remember this. The day I return, none of you will live. After saying these words, the black-robed old man wanted to escape. Swoosh! Sub-Island Master Chui blocked the black-robed old man's path and said to Sub-Island Master Wang, "Don't let him escape. You know the consequences." Sub-Island Master Wang sighed. His figure flashed and blocked the black-robed old man's path. "You better stay." The black-robed old man's face turned green, and his body trembled. How could this be? Grand Elder Son didn't expect the situation to turn out like this. He glanced at Yi-chan with a venomous look. All of this was because of him. Stealthily, Grand Elder Son flew into the distance. Yi-chan sneered. He extended his left index finger and pointed at the air. A green lotus sword chi shot out from his finger and instantly pierced through Grand Elder Son's forehead. In a short time, everyone who participated in the battle was killed. The only one left was the island master, the black-robed old man. The black-robed old man fought fiercely with Sub-Island Master Wang and Sub-Island Master Chui. The three's battle power was equal, and the black-robed old man's defense was much stronger than the other two. For a moment, no one could do anything to the other. Green Lotus Sky reaching. A beam of sword light shattered the black-robed old man's defense, and the sword chi tore off one of his arms. The attacker was indeed Yi-chan. Up until now, he still hadn't used all of his power. He felt that there was no need to reveal all of it since it would be too shocking. Even so, the fact that Yi-chan could break through the black-robed old man's defense still made Sub-Island Master Wang and Sub-Island Master Chui sigh in admiration. The power of an upper-grade defensive artifact was something they knew very well. Previously, they had also battled with the black-robed old man. Boom boom boom. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the two sub-island masters attacked even more fiercely, causing the black-robed old man to continuously puke blood. Swoosh! After the sword light passed, a fist-sized green lotus rapidly enlarged in front of the black-robed old man. His originally chaotic protective Zhanyuan only lasted for a moment before it shattered with a swoosh, and a bloody hole appeared on his forehead. Blood splashed out, dyeing the black-robed old man red. You won't have a good ending. The reverse 9-turn spirit grass is not something you can keep. The last sentence contained all of the black-robed old man's Zhanyuan, which spread out in all directions. Chuckling, the black-robed old man fell on his back. Chapter 376. Yi-chen's face turned gloomy. Just now, when the black-robed old man roared, the number of people on Bewilderment Fog Island must have been at least 800,000, if not 1,000,000. He was sure that the black-robed old man didn't dare to confirm that he had the 9-turn spirit grass. At most, he would be suspicious. However, his goal was precisely to make everyone suspicious. At that time, regardless of whether he had it or not, it would be hard for him to clear his name. Even in death, this old man wouldn't let him have an easy time. Yi-chan didn't need to look to feel the strange gazes coming from all directions, including the two deputy island masters who had just joined hands with him. Grand Elder Yi, Brother Yi, do you really have the 9-turn spirit grass? Deputy Island Master Wang asked. Yi-chan shot a glance at him. This Deputy Island Master Wang had given him a good impression. Unfortunately, as long as one was a martial artist, there was no one who didn't want to become powerful. He said indifferently, if I said I do or don't, would you believe me? Deputy Island Master Wang paused. Indeed, it wasn't important whether he had it or not. What was important was whether others believed him or not. Those who believed him would naturally think he had it, and those who didn't would naturally think he didn't. Unless Yi-chan had some way to prove that he didn't have it, or directly took out the 9-turn spirit grass and said he had it. Whether you have it or not has nothing to do with us. Deputy Island Master Chui retracted his gaze. He was very clear that even if he had it, it wouldn't be their turn. I have no interest in the position of Island Master. If any of you are interested, then go ahead. Yi-chan peeled off the shining golden armor from the black-robed old man's body and took off his storage ring, then said to the two without turning his head. Deputy Island Master Wang could also see that Yi-chan had no interest in the position of Island Master. After all, Who didn't know that he was the #1 expert of Bewilderment Fog Island? It didn't matter whether he became the island master or not. As for why he wanted to become a Grand Elder, it should be because he was afraid of trouble. Brother Chui, you and I are both island masters. How about it? I have no objection. Night arrived and dense fog shrouded Bewilderment Fog Island. Inside the spacious room, a golden light pervaded the air. The light came from the golden armor in Yi Chen's hand. Golden armor, a metal attributed high-rank defensive treasure. Its value is immeasurable. A good defensive artifact was much more valuable than an attacking one. In the true spirit continent, life was the most important. Without life, everything would be meaningless. But it was also because of this that top-ranked defensive artifacts were very troublesome. Astral-reaching realm warriors would not be able to keep them. Only Sea of Souls realm warriors would have the power to do so, and not every Sea of Souls realm warrior would have a top-ranked defensive artifact. For a top-ranked defensive artifact, it would be unavoidable for them to kill each other. Fortunately, outside of the bewildering fog forbidden zone, no one knew that Yi Chen had an upper-ranked defensive treasure, the gold armor. Once he got out, it would save him a lot of trouble, and in a critical moment the gold armor could be a life-saving item. In a life-and-death situation, who would care about the consequences of exposing an upper-ranked defensive treasure? Break! The Green Lotus True Essence poured into the golden armor. Not only did it expel the remaining true essence of the black-robed old man, but it also completely annihilated his aura. However, after putting it on, Yi Chen still felt a bit uncomfortable. Scanning the gold armor with his soul power, Yi Chen soon discovered a problem. This gold armor had the black-robed old man's spiritual imprint, and it was precisely because of this that he found it difficult to use. Removing the spiritual imprint was too easy for Yi Chen. His sword will entered and cleanly erased the spiritual imprint. So, an upper-rank artifact still needs to have its own spiritual imprint. Only by doing so can the pressure of the artifact be restrained. Referring to the black-robed old man's spiritual imprint, Yi Chen imprinted his own spiritual imprint. Under the control of his mind, the gold armor's radiance gradually retracted, no longer emitting a trace of fluctuation. Wearing it under his clothes, no one would be able to tell that it was an upper-rank artifact. Ignoring the other upper-rank artifact, the Thunder Hammer, Yi Chen's attention fell on the black-robed old man's storage ring. Inside the storage ring, 500,000 mid-grade spirit stones. 5 million low-grade spirit stones. Apart from that, there were hundreds of upper-rank spirit stones. The top-rank spirit stones contained extremely pure yuan qi, so pure that one didn't need to refine it, and could directly absorb it. Of course, this was only for astral-reaching realm warriors. Once one reached the Sea of Souls realm, the Zhen Yuan would no longer be as simple as being pure. Hundreds of upper-rank spirit stones should be enough for my cultivation base to improve. But, if I want to accumulate enough to reach the peak of late astral-reaching realm, this is still not enough. Besides the spirit stones, there were also a lot of martial arts manuals in the storage ring. There were 4 high-rank Earthrealm manuals, dozens of mid-rank Earthrealm manuals, and a top-rank Earthrealm hammer art manual called Thunder Beast Transformation. Thunder Beast Transformation only had 4 transformations, which was very little compared to the 9 movements of the Green Lotus sword art. Each transformation could condense a beast shape. Powerful soul, powerful will. There should be some hope. Chapter 377. The next day, Yi Chen didn't inform anyone and entered the dense fog alone. Amidst the thick fog, Yi Chen floated in the air with the perceptive ball in his left hand. The perceptive ball is shining with an orange light. I should be almost 800 li away from Bewilderment Fog Island, and 1,000 li away from the large perceptive tower. If Bewilderment Fog Island happens to be in the center of Bewilderment Fog Forbidden Zone, then I'm about half of 30,000 li away from the edge. Subtracting 1,000 li from that, it would be 14,000 li. 14,000 li. My soul power can only radiate 47 li in the fog. In other words, I'll have to use my soul power 300 times. If there's a huge deviation in any one of them, all my efforts would be wasted. However, traveling 47 li in one go is countless times more effective than traveling 14,000 li without a plan. With the strength of my will, the influence won't be too great, and the deviation can be controlled to a small extent. However, traveling 14,000 li is something that the majority of Sea of Soul Realm experts wouldn't be able to endure, and would get lost midway. And let's begin. Putting away the perceptive ball, Yi-chan closed his eyes and a powerful soul power radiated out from his forehead, traveling along the fog until 47 li away. Without opening his eyes, Yi-chan's Zhanyuan erupted as he flew at an extreme speed. After 20 breaths here. Following the same pattern, Yi-chan's soul power radiated another 47 li away, making it the second destination in a straight line. Third destination. 10th destination. Third destination. The edge of bewilderment fog forbidden zone still seems very far away. Perhaps it's more than 14,000 li from the starting point to the edge. After all, the entire bewilderment fog forbidden zone has an irregular shape. Some places are longer while others are shorter. Let's persevere for a while more. 320th destination. 400 destination. 500 destination. Damn wrong. 500 times of positioning, 47 li for each. 500 times would be 23,500 li. If there were no deviation, I would have left long ago. Although Yi-chan had already prepared himself for failure, the cruelty of bewilderment fog forbidden zone still made him smile bitterly. I wonder where I am in the bewilderment fog forbidden zone now. One wrong step really leads to all the wrong steps. There was no time to be depressed. 500 moves did not take much time, adding up to only 3.5 hours. Yi-chan planned to continue flying in a straight line because no matter how long the distance was, as long as it was a straight line, there would be a chance to get out. He did not believe that he would not be lucky even once. The large water leak told Yi-chan that a month had passed. In the past month, he had used his soul power to locate the target 180,000 times. Every day, out of the 24 hours, 20 hours were spent flying. Of the remaining 4 hours, 2 hours were spent absorbing the energy from the top-rank spirit stones, and 2 hours were spent resting. During this period, he coincidentally returned to Bewilderment Fog Island 11 times. What was certain was that the closer one was to Bewilderment Fog Island, the less affected one was. The closer one was to the edge of Bewilderment Fog Forbidden Zone, the more affected one was. Being able to return to Bewilderment Fog Island 11 times was a good proof. Thinking about it, even Sea of Soul Realm experts have to rely on luck to get out. If they are lucky, they can get out in a short time. If they are unlucky, it would not be an exaggeration to say that they would be stuck inside for 3 to 5 years. However, as long as you persevere, luck will come to you. Swish! Yi-chen's figure pierced through the dense fog. Another month passed. Bang! Earth and yellow fist shadows burst forth, raising huge waves on the lake's surface. Damn it! It's been 2 months. Could it be that my method was wrong from the start? Relying on will alone is impossible to get out? Perhaps my will is not enough. For astral-reaching experts, 2 months was nothing more than a single session of seclusion, which could pass in the blink of an eye. However, it was different now. During this period, Yi-chan had been flying again and again, calculating again and again, repeating the same boring behavior. If there was a time limit, Yi-chan wouldn't be so upset and sullen. The crucial point was that he didn't know how long he would have to endure such days. The sullen feeling in his heart finally erupted, and it was a huge one at that. Bang! 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 The lake's surface of dozens of li was riddled with holes, raising huge waves that reached thousands of meters high. Many demonic beasts were shaken to death at the bottom of the lake. After venting his anger, Yi-chan gasped for breath. No, I don't even believe in myself anymore. What sword Tao is there to cultivate? The further I go, the more difficult it gets. Seems like my strength is there, but my mental state is not there yet. Usually I think I'm very calm, unfazed even if the sky collapses. But when it comes to a true test of will, I'm actually no good. Oh well, this time I'm not only looking for a way out, but also tempering my mental state. Yi-chen's terror lay in his ability to reflect in time. If it were an ordinary person, they would only be tangled in the problem of leaving the forbidden zone. However, Yi Chun could jump out and find his own problem. Buzz! A spacious wooden board flew out of the storage ring and landed on the lake. Yi Chun sat cross-legged on the board and calmed his mind. Any tribulation is a test for me. Any setback will allow me to reach a higher level. Any obstacle will be an opportunity for me to improve, turning all favorable and unfavorable things into my own. This is my will, my spirit, my sword Tao. In the dense fog, the young man started his first mental state transformation. Of course, the transformation had just begun. Whether he could break through or not, he could only rely on himself. The 3rd month, failure. The 4th month, failure. The 5th month was about to begin. During this period of time, Yi Chun had been dispirited, lacking in confidence, persevering, comprehending, and reflecting. Every time he pulled himself together, Yi Chun felt like his spirit had gone through a baptism and a tempering. His sword Tao had become sharper and indestructible. The 5th month, the 7th day, Yi Chun continued to fly, his eyes resolute. Feng Yanro, you've been chasing me for 3 months, and you still haven't given up? Above the boundless lake, 2 figures were 7 to 8 li apart, one in front and one behind. The one speaking was the middle-aged man in front. He was tall and thin, wearing a long robe. As he flew, his whole body seemed to have turned into the wind. Under the wind's escort, his speed was as fast as a ghost. The one chasing him was a young woman in her 20s, wearing a snow-white dress with a long sword at her waist. Her fine black hair was like a waterfall, and her eyes were like stars. Her ice-cold expression carried a kind of breathtaking beauty. What was especially eye-catching was the snowflake pattern on her forehead, appearing exceptionally holy and gorgeous. She said with a clear voice, "Gao Qianhe, the matter of you killing my junior sister won't end like this. Even if I have to spend a year, I'll kill you with my own hands." "Humph! Chase me then. Although my strength is not as high as yours, in terms of agility technique, no one in the astral reaching realm can compare to me." The young woman called Feng Yanro creased her brows. The opposite party was right. Although her agility technique was exceptional, this Gao Qianhe's agility technique was even more frightening. His comprehension was also not to be underestimated, as he had actually comprehended wind mentality and soft mentality to the extreme. With the 2 mentalities superimposed together, his speed had already reached an unimaginable level. If not for her vigorous Zhan Yuan and a secret skill that could increase her speed, she would have long since been left behind. Even so, he had still escaped several times in these 2 months. Fortunately, she was quite well versed in the art of tracking, and caught up again. "Indeed, if nothing unexpected happens, I will never be able to catch up to you. However, I can endure this kind of life. Can you endure being chased for a long time?" Gao Qianhe was furious. After being chased for 3 months, Gao Qianhe had long since been exhausted. Not only was his body exhausted, but his spirit was also the most painful. As he thought up to this point, he regretted not killing his junior sister at the beginning. As for this matter, it had to start from 3 months ago. Gao Qianhe cultivated a rather evil martial art, and his desires were extremely great. One day he encountered Feng Yanro's junior sister in a remote area. His heart filled with evil intentions, and after injuring her, he wanted to have sex with her. But how could he have known that the other party had used some unknown secret technique to contact Feng Yanro, and had ambushed him at the most unexpected time? Gao Qianhe tangled with her for a while, and in the end killed her out of anger. However, just as he killed her, Feng Yanro arrived. Feng Yanro was only 22 or 23 years old, but her martial arts were extremely high. It was said that among the young generation of Misty Snow region, she was at least in the top 5. As for which of the top 5, nobody knew. After dozens of moves, Gao Qianhe was no match for Feng Yanro, and fled in defeat. What followed was a chase that lasted for 3 months. Flying snow connecting the sky. From 7 to 8 li away, Feng Yanro pulled out the long sword at her waist and slashed in the air. An ice-cold sword chi swirled up a sky-filling snowflakes as it chopped toward Gao Qianhe. The sword intent contained within made Gao Qianhe's scalp go numb, and his speed unknowingly increased. Gotcha! The sword chi didn't manage to hit Gao Qianhe, but the lake water below him froze. A nearly 300 zhang long sword scar was imprinted on the layer of ice, looking very ghastly. Damn it, this girl's sword Dao cultivation is too frightening. I'm absolutely not her opponent. I'm afraid that in the entire Misty Snow region, there won't be an astral-reaching realm sword artist more powerful than her. Gao Qianhe inwardly rejoiced, and subconsciously looked into the distance. That's the fog area. I might have a chance to escape. Dozens of li away, the thick fog covered the sky and covered the sun. It was hard to tell how wide it was and how high it was. It was the perfect place to escape. Not good. There's actually a fog area above the Star Regional Lake. Feng Yinrou's brows creased. 30 li 20 li. When Gao Qianhe was only 20 li away from the fog, a long roar came from within, and a blue silhouette rushed out. It was a youngster. Finally out. Yichun raised his head to look at the sky. The warm sunlight sprinkled on his body, making him feel exceptionally gentle. On the 7th day of the 5th month, Yichun broke the iron rule of the Forbidden Zone, and smoothly walked out with an astral-reaching realm cultivation base. If this were to spread out, who knew what consequences it would bring? However, none of this was important. What was important was that he had finally left that damned place. As he thought of this, Yichun couldn't help but rejoice at his perseverance. Without the perseverance of the previous 4 months, the possibility of him walking out would be close to zero. He reckoned that those Sea of Soul Realm experts who had fallen into the Forbidden Zone might not have been able to persevere for too long. After all, Sea of Soul Realm experts surpassed Yichun in terms of speed, and had certain advantages. Is this person being chased? Quite fast. Feng Yanrou and Gao Qianhe's pursuit was too eye-catching. It would be hard for Yichun not to notice it. Please help me stop him, please. From far away, Feng Yanrou circulated her Zhanyuan, and her voice was transmitted to Yichun at a frightening speed. Actually, she didn't think Yichun could stop Gao Qianhe, but he only needed 2 breaths of time. 2 breaths of time, and she would be able to catch up with all her strength. At that time, she would be well prepared, and she would absolutely not let Gao Qianhe escape. Bewilderment Fog Forbidden Zone only allows one to enter, but not leave. Since this person has entered, it's almost impossible to track him. Help her stop him. In any case, it won't take much effort. According to his soul power, Yichun roughly estimated that Gao Qianhe was an extreme astral-reaching expert, and so was Feng Yanrou. However, the latter was much stronger, and should be one of the top existences among extreme astral-reaching experts. Of course, it didn't mean much to him. A brat wants to stop me? Dream on. Shadow Shift Godly Art. Gao Qianhe's body suddenly paused, and an astonishing scene occurred. Behind Yichun, another Gao Qianhe appeared. 2 Gao Qianhe appeared in front and behind of Yichun, making it impossible to tell which one was real and which one was fake. Even Yichun was instantly mesmerized. Seeing this, Feng Yanrou could only smile bitterly. Asking him to stop Gao Qianhe, whose movement technique was exceptional, was indeed too difficult. She couldn't blame him. You're tuning into the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.